We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
Welcome in. Happy Thursday, the beginning of another week in the National Football League. I'm Jeff Parles. He is Ryan McCormick. We're thrilled to be with you as always. Well, Ryan, we're already on the back end of the season.
Yeah.
We're going to be, well, I have to do some math real quick. 2/3 of the way through after next week.
Yeah.
So, look, we can talk playoff stuff now.
Yeah.
We're hitting the home stretch here in the National Football League.
Yeah, totally fair. And we got a divisional matchup tonight, one that's going to have huge implications in the division picture as well as the wild card picture. So, NFC East, a Philadelphia Eagles team that is one of the top in the NFC, and then the rookie phenom in Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders going into Philly tonight.
So let's just dive in. We'll just dive in. By the way, the college game tonight, we're not going to give any time because neither of us have a play on it. We apologize to people on ECU in Tulsa. ECU is a 15-point favorite with a total of 63. If you like the over, go ahead and bet the over. That's the only thing we can advocate for. But we're going to have all of our attention on this NFL game here tonight because this is, look, when the schedule came out, it's like, oh, really? We're going to have to waste our time on a Thursday night where Philly just beats up on Washington and this is just not a close game. Well, not so fast, my friends.
No.
As you mentioned, look, the Commanders, we'll look at them first. No one had them at 7-3 through 10 games.
Nope.
No one. Their win total was 6.5.
Well, our guy Sean did.
Sean was just talking because he loved Jaden Daniels. That doesn't count. Doesn't count. But this has been a great story for Washington, where it's been just bad play for a long time. Change ownership groups on last year.
Yep.
You bring in Dan Quinn. You hire the right OC to coach the young quarterback in Cliff Kingsbury, and here you are at 7-3 and. Look, Ryan, this is another step up in weight class here for the Washington Commanders. We saw the last week, good but not good enough, losing to Pittsburgh 28-27, and now you're playing a division rival and a division rival that is just scorching red hot right now in Philadelphia.
Yeah, and you come into this one and you're getting Brian Robinson back. I think that's going to be the key to this one. Yes. So other than the obvious time of possession and game script, obviously the ground game is a huge part of football, and I think that's going to be what wins this game for the Commanders or the Eagles in this one. Brian Robinson has missed the last two games for the Commanders, had missed a third earlier this year against the Ravens, and only twice this season has the Commanders been held under 100 rushing yards. Those were the 2 games that Brian Robinson missed. They lost them both. And so as long as Brian Robinson is playing for them and their team gets over 100 rushing yards, I'll have another stat with the Eagles side of it. I think they'll be able to cover at least in this one.
So Washington so far this year, if you just look at what they've played, their only win against a team currently over 500 is the Arizona Cardinals. Now, very different version of Arizona they saw in week 4. If they played today, the game would look very different because Arizona's defense is vastly improved from just taking that 42-14 bludgeoning at the hands of the Commanders back in that first week of October. But you look at the rest of the wins, like you just saw with the schedule up there. You beat the Giants twice, one of the worst teams in the league. You beat the Bengals. Yeah, they're 4-6. I get it. They're better. They're still underwater, though. Cleveland, disaster. The Bears, disaster. Mm-hmm. Carolina, disaster. So they've beaten, of their wins, they've beaten 2 teams that I would say are legitimate, solid NFL teams. And Arizona's not quite the team they are now when they faced them. It was good timing for Washington. And now you face, I don't even think this is for debate. This is far and away the best team before last week. Obviously, Pittsburgh, can't forget them. They're clearly a real team. But the Eagles are the best team they've faced so far. And not only is this game a division game, they're on the road. We know it's a hostile crowd. Granted, you could argue Washington was playing a road game at home last week because Steeler fans took that place over in Landover. But, Ryan, I'm just curious to see how the young rookie in this rivalry, which, boy, this could be the NFC East rivalry moving forward, especially if Dallas doesn't get their act together. First crack at that Philadelphia road game here for Jaden Daniels tonight. Yeah,
and even outside of Jaden Daniels, this matchup has some good familiarity with it. Dan Quinn, the now head coach of the Washington Commanders, was the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys the last 3 seasons. So again, in division, twice a year meets up against the Eagles. And then you have Saquon Barkley, who was in division with the Giants, going to the Eagles. So still gets to go against Dan Quinn twice a year. So you're getting to see some guys that you have had to scheme against before, or defenses that you have had to prepare for, vice versa. But with the familiarity, I tried to go back and look at Dan Quinn versus Nick Sirianni with the Cowboys. So in 3 seasons with the Cowboys were 4-2 straight up and against the spread versus these Eagles. Dallas and Dan Quinn's defense only allowed 28-plus points in 1 of the 6 meetings, but 5 of the 6 went over the total. And by the time Dan Quinn's tenure in Atlanta was over, so his tenure in Seattle and his tenure in Atlanta, he was 64-64 against the spread. Going to Dallas and now in Washington, in those 2 stops, he has been 41-23-1 against the spread, a 63% cover percentage, which would be the second best in the National Football League behind only Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. So Dan Quinn is getting these Commanders, or getting his teams fired up when they are underdogs to cover the spread. So looking at this for my scenario here with Philadelphia, where the Eagles, before the bye, and when we talk schedules, I usually look at teams that have that week 5, week 6 bye, and I'm like, boy, that's really difficult to play that many games in a row. Yep. And for the Eagles, the timing was perfect. Because of the injuries they had, because the game before the bye, they looked like they were barely an NFL team against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where they got their behind whipped in that game. And since then, Ryan, you've already said a little bit of it. I mean, look at the dominance since the bye week for Philadelphia. They've had 2 weird 1-score games against bottom feeders in the AFC, where if Sirianni knew how math worked, that game would never have really even been competitive against Jacksonville. But 28-3 against the Giants, 37-17 against the Bengals. Obviously, last week now, Dallas is a shell of itself, but still beat them up. 28-point win in the NFL. Doesn't matter how bad the opponent is. It's still very impressive, especially on the road. Yeah.
And for Philadelphia, the biggest change in the market for them is that Jalen Hurts is playing like Jalen Hurts from 2 years ago again. And you look at the way that Hurts was playing before the bye, sloppy with the football. Not the same guy. He's thrown no interceptions since the bye week. His lowest quarterback rating since the bye week's 115. He's been great since the bye week, and that's why this Philadelphia offense has taken off. And right now, Ryan, I know we all love the Lions, and we're going to have the Lions ahead of Philadelphia in both of our power ratings.
Yeah.
But the better bet in the futures market right now is the Philadelphia Eagles, because they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And right now, probably one of two teams that I could see possibly go into Detroit and upset them in a playoff game.
Yeah. And I mean, you'd made the point that the bye week came in the perfect spot, but when we talk in 5 weeks, it may have not been.
Correct.
And it's really kind of just
100%.
goes wherever it happens, and whatever the circumstance is, you get to say what you feel. But I 100% agree with you that now the value is on the Eagles versus the Lions in the NFC picture, because you are getting a higher price, and they are the team that is right behind the Lions in the NFC. So if you do feel inclined to get an NFC picture price now, I would agree with you. The Eagles are good.
4-point favorites tonight. Bounced around, was 3.5, then went to 3. Then
touched 3 for a single hour.
1 hour.
Yep.
And does that count as a blink?
Vince, no?
It's close. Close. A blink by standards of
over the course of a week. An hour's a blink.
It's close, especially depending on what time of day it was. If it was weird when we're all asleep, then yeah, maybe. Even at the worst of the number, I still like Philadelphia tonight.
Okay.
I just Washington's season's been tremendous. And the way their schedule breaks, even if they lose tonight, they still play Dallas twice.
Yeah.
Still play Tennessee. Still get New Orleans. They get Atlanta at home. Like, the path to win 11 games is pretty straightforward for the Washington Commanders, even with a loss tonight. You play 4-2 in the last 6 against mediocre competition. 11 wins should be enough to get you in the NFC playoffs this year. But this is a big step, and I finally have Pittsburgh in my top 10 again for a second consecutive week. But this is a big step. Now you're going on the road to face a high-end team. And even though they only lost by 1, I didn't love how they handled it last week against Pittsburgh in a game that, quite frankly, they probably should have won with the way that the game flow ended up being in that game, and they didn't. So I like Philadelphia tonight. I think they win by 2 touchdowns. Total's right. Philadelphia's been the number 1 defense in the NFL since the bye week also. Big changes. Their corners are playing well. So that total feels about right, just because you're still dealing with 2 high-end offenses, even though both defenses in this game have been vastly improved over the last month plus.
Yeah, and we talk about this being a divisional matchup. The Eagles have won 11 of the last 14 in this matchup.
Yeah.
Both of the games last year, both teams scored 31 each in both games last year. So if you're thinking continuity, this 49 is really low. But talking about the coaches, so Nick Sirianni got a lot of hate earlier this year. But despite the hate or everyone thinking that he's a doofus, he's 41-19 as an NFL head coach, which is pretty good. My notes keep moving without the screen even moving. Okay. 41-19 since he took over as the Eagles head coach, 14-7 in division, but is 8-11-2 against the spread in division. So hasn't been able to cover division games, but has been able to win division games. And the total is 16-8 in division games. Scratch that last part. I was talking about them as a home favorite. So sorry, the Eagles as a home favorite under Nick Sirianni, 20-4 straight up. 83.3 win percentage, the best in the NFL, the 4th most wins in the National Football League as a home favorite. 13-9-2 against the spread, 59%, the 4th best win percentage and the 5th most wins in the National Football League, and the total is 16-8, the best win percentage and the 4th most in the National Football League. So the Eagles, as a home favorite, have been a top team in the league at being able to cover or go over, or not cover, win and go over, but not necessarily cover. So
let's go to the anytime touchdown market. Let's go there. We'll flip around the order from what we've been doing the last few times out. You're laying quite the price on Saquon Barkley, which is not much of a shock there. Again, all running backs healthy and accounted for in this game, which is not what we expected even 24 hours ago. Barkley, who's actually been remarkably healthy for him this year, minus 195 at DK. Jalen Hurts is minus 115. And then the parade of plus 120s come. Yeah. A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, and Brian Robinson Jr., who's back after 2 weeks away. You mentioned it. Washington has not been the same on offense without Brian Robinson Jr. there. Plus 120. Devontae Smith, who was also dealing with an injury this week, completely removed from the injury report yesterday, ready to go, plus 160. Devontae Smith's had a very weird stretch the last few weeks. Eckler, who scored a touchdown in each of the games that Robinson didn't play, is at 2-1. Dallas Goedert plus 225. And then there's Jaden Daniels there, sitting at plus 230, which I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a little surprised by that price, Ryan. Surprised that price is a little, is that high. I would have expected him to be in that same range as Devontae Smith. Now, I'm not saying I love the bet. I'm just saying that the price is a little bit more than I anticipated, which would then at least got my brain thinking of, all right, can we go ahead with this? But the biggest thing with this, more so than anything, is Washington's going to have the ball in tight on Philadelphia. Have the ball within the five, basically, in order to score a touchdown for the quarterback, barring some ridiculously long run. Don't mind that price, though, at plus 230. I'll give my long shot in a second here, Ryan, but I'm curious your end here.
So I tried to go look at history for these. So Saquon Barkley has had to play against Dan Quinn, as I mentioned earlier this episode, but earlier in his career. So Saquon Barkley in his career against Dan Quinn defenses, 3 touchdowns in 6 games. The Giants were 0-6 against Dan Quinn and the Cowboys. Averages 13 carries, 55 yards, 4.2 catches for 23 yards. So basically 17.2 touches for 78.3 yards, but only 3 touchdowns in 6 games. So not exactly worth it to take it on Saquon Barkley at the almost $2. More willing to take the Jalen Hurts, being that he is the poacher at the 1-yard line for the Philadelphia Eagle offense. So when it comes between those two, I would lean more Hurts than Barkley, even though Saquon is a fantastic athlete in and of himself, but more Hurts than Barkley for the top 2.
100% agree on if we're eating chalk tonight, Jalen Hurts is the bet. 100% for every reason you just brought up. He's the ultimate touchdown vulture because of the tush push. Now, granted, hasn't been quite as dominant as it was last year. Defense is a little bit better. No Jason Kelce anymore. Right. But you and I are 100%. If we're laying chalk tonight, and also for laying one of the 2 quarterbacks, which if you check out the poll on our show here today.
Jaden Daniels does have some votes, but Jalen Hurts is in the lead.
Well, when we were talking about this before the show with our guy Vince, it made sense. Like minus 115 versus plus 230. There are going to be people that want that juicy price. Yeah. So I'm not overly surprised at that. It could be both of them. Maybe put them together in the same game parlay.
Just a caution on Daniels. He hasn't had one since week 4. So 3-7. He is due. Yes, that is a good point.
So, by the way, Ertz for back in Philadelphia again, plus 270. Noah Brown, who of course ended Ryan McCormick's Bears season as well, plus 275. Thanks. Boy, and Jeremy McNichols 6-1 is staring at me, but I just can't get there. Especially with Robinson back, you have to imagine he's going to get the bulk, if not all of the carries on the goal line. Which leads me to the pair of plus 750s out there. Not just Luke McCaffrey, but Johnny Wilson, who scored his first NFL touchdown a week ago. Wilson is a very tall target. Very tall target. Now, it took him a while to get integrated in the offense and really struggled early in the year. But he's a big red zone target where it's been weird. Other than that giant game against New Orleans, it's been a very weird year for Goddard, who's dealt with injury yet again. But plus 750 on Johnny Wilson, plus 750 on Luke McCaffrey, who has gotten a little more run over the last few weeks. There are worse bets at that sort of price to be made. So I don't mind either of those if you want to do some pizza money on either Wilson or McCaffrey to score here tonight, Ryan. Those are the 2 bombers for me.
Okay. Yeah, I tried to get too cute on Monday. I went with the backup punt returner, and then the actual punt returner ended up scoring. I did look at Malik Washington at 7-1, but I ended up going with Dwayne. I forget his last name. That's how it was. But anyway,
Eskridge.
Yeah,
Eskridge.
Eskridge.
Yeah, Eskridge. Yep.
Yeah. But I don't know if I'll get too cute playing anything larger than maybe Zach Ertz in the come home spot, but. No big play on the touchdown for me tonight. But if we do want to get into props, looking at the Washington Commanders side, Brian Robinson is back for them. We'll be looking at Brian Robinson, Terry McLaurin, and Zach Ertz. So Brian Robinson, 12.5 rush attempts is the prop tonight. 4-3 this season. 4-3 on his over 56.5 rushing yards. 2-5 on his receptions, and 2-5 on that total yardage. So not great, but he is coming off his hamstring injury. I do expect him to have a good workload for the Commanders offense tonight, being that they want to keep the Eagles offense off the field. So I like the over 12.5 carries for Brian Robinson tonight. I also like the over 47.5 rushing yards. I think he gets at least 50. That will be part of same game parlay. We'll be adding to the show coming up later in the episode.
We will be.
But then looking at Terry McLaurin is another one I do like. His 4.5 receptions. Looking at his averages against the Eagles, averages 9 targets. So he's played 10 games, 6 against Nick Sirianni. So we'll look at the Nick Sirianni portion against the Eagles, even though he did have more in the time frame before that. But anyway, average versus Nick Sirianni, 9 targets, 6 catches, 81.8 yards. So over on both those receptions and receiving yards. His longest reception, he has gone over in 5 of the 10 games this season, has a 25-plus yard catch in 3 of the last 4 games. So I have no problem taking Terry McLaurin, even though I do see more of a run game for the Washington Commanders tonight. And then, as I said, with Zach Ertz in the anytime touchdown market tonight, I do like his catches as well. Don't think we'll be getting much. Austin Eckler's more the receiving back, so don't think there, but I think Jaden Daniels is going to try and stretch the field with McLaurin and Ertz in this matchup versus trying to dump it off to other receivers. But in this season, Zach Ertz, 6-4 to the over, has 5+ targets in 5 of the last 6 games, has gone over his receptions in 5 of the 10 games this year, back-to-back unders. So, and he's due. Thank you for that one. And then his longest reception at 15.5 yards, 3-7, and is getting only 7 yards per target this season. So I don't like Zach Ertz over on his longest reception. I won't be playing it, but I caution you if you do like the over on that side.
So just real quick on my thoughts on these. Robinson's attempts is a very tricky one here tonight because we just don't know.
Coming off of injury, yep.
We just don't know. The hamstring injury is one that lingers. It just always is the case. So tough. But if he's healthy, this is going to be one of those, if you bet it, you're going to know early.
Yep.
Because if he looks spry and sharp early in the game, you're getting 20 carries tonight. And that should be more than enough. That will be obviously more than enough to get you over to 12.5. And now at 47.5 will be cheap as well if you want to do that. Ertz props, I'm staying the heck away from. There's absolutely, for me, nothing to be had.
Okay.
And then McLaurin, McLaurin is the most underrated wide receiver in the NFL. He has been for a while, and now he finally has a quarterback that can actually get him the football. And look, even though Philly's secondary has been much better since the bye week, they haven't really faced elite wide receivers other than Chase, who still had a pretty good game in that game. Yeah. So it would be McLaurin if we're circling one guy from this list to attack on the overs in this game. And then Ertz, I kind of want to go under the 3.5. Kind of want to go under it, but I'm just going to stay off because you can get one of those funky 4 for 19 games, and you end up losing the receptions while the receiving yards went way the heck under.
Yep.
Let's go to the Eagles side of the props here. Barkley, Brown, and Smith before we get to our quarterbacks at the end here, Ryan. Saquon, 95.5 rushing yards, 110 receiving and rushing put together, 19.5 attempts. 2.5 receptions seems low, doesn't it, Ryan?
It's right.
I know. I know.
Oh, well, yeah. No, I know. I know what you mean. Yep.
We were saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's wow. That kind of feels a little juicy, but I'm sure when you go through the numbers, he's been under for almost 75% of the games.
Yep.
A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I'm still not convinced either of these guys is 100% healthy. So it's kind of hard to be looking at the wide receivers. I'd be looking to go off the board if you want to go with one of the tight ends. You want to attack. You want to just take Johnny Wilson over a catch or a catch and a half. I don't mind that. It's very hard on the Eagles side here tonight.
Some Grant Calcaterra.
More calculating. Over 7.5 yards is a critical bet to the operation tonight, Ryan.
Yeah. But okay, so looking at the trends for this season and against Dan Quinn defenses for all three of these guys, Saquon Barkley over the 19.5 attempts this season is 4-5. Has not gone over the attempts in any game versus Dan Quinn's defense. Over 95.5 rushing yards, 5-4 this season, has not gone over versus a Dan Quinn defense. 2.5 receptions, 3-6 this season, 4-1 to the over versus Dan Quinn defense. And that 110.5 receiving yards, the total yardage, 7-2 to the over this season, 1-4 versus Dan Quinn defenses. So the only thing that Saquon has been able to do versus Dan Quinn defenses has been able to catch balls out of the backfield. Granted, he was a giant, so didn't have much help, but nonetheless, he did go over on his receptions versus Dan Quinn defenses. Now looking at A.J. Brown, 5.5 receptions is 1-5 to the over this year, 3-2 in games versus Dan Quinn. 82.5 receiving yards, 5-1 to the over this year. So 1-5 on his receptions, but 5-1 to the over on the receiving yards this season. 3-2 versus Dan Quinn defenses. His longest receptions, that 28.5 yards, 5-1 to the over this year. He has 4 games with at least a 40-yard catch. That's ridiculous.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
2-3 versus Dan Quinn defenses. So Jalen Hurts has been chucking it down the field to A.J. Brown this year as he did last year. So no problem, honestly, with that one tonight. If you're thinking something's got to go right for this Eagles defense or Eagles offense, no problem with the over 28.5 for A.J. Brown. And then Devonta Smith, who has had injury concerns this week. 4-4 this year on his receptions. Nothing really to write home about. 3-3 versus Dan Quinn. 53.5 yards, 6-2 to the over. 2-4 to the over, so 4-2 to the under versus Dan Quinn. His longest receptions, 21.5, 4-4 this season, 4-2 versus Dan Quinn defenses. And then looking at averages for these guys, Saquon Barkley, I mentioned earlier, 17.2 touches, 78.3 yards. A.J. Brown averages 6 catches, 85 yards, and 14.1 yards per reception versus Dan Quinn. And Devonta Smith, 4.5 catches right at that line, 58.3 yards and 13 yards per catch. So really the only one I kind of like, a
little lean.
Yeah, A.J. Brown, longest reception, and A.J. Brown receptions.
I'm with you on the A.J. Brown. If you're going to take an over tonight, just look at the pet, like you just said. I mean, that's insane on the Brown part. And look, he's good for about a 35-yard catch every single week he plays. So that would be the only over of this collection that I would look at. I don't think, I know he showed up on the injury report and then he was off of it by yesterday. Devontae Smith's not right. There's something going on with him that I would be very cautious of betting anything related to him at this point. You could go under, but then if he's healthy, then you get smoked potentially. So very, very difficult, except for that Brown over 28.5. Quarterbacks tonight, very simple on my end. I just want that anytime touchdown on Jalen Hurts. That's it. That's the only thing I'm going to end up betting here tonight. If Philadelphia gets the ball inside the 2-yard line, we know what's happening. It's every single game. And the last time I bet a Jalen Hurts no interception, it was a deflected ball that got intercepted by a defensive tackle. So we're done doing that, Ryan. Even though Hurts has just been so in command since the bye week. So I'd only look the Hurts anytime touchdown. His rushing total was in the mid-40s tonight. I think it was 42.5. on Hurts. Double check me on that, Ryan. But I wouldn't mind going over a rushing total. I'd rather have that than the passing total here tonight. Is it 42.5 now?
41.5.
Okay, so in that pocket tonight, I would only rather have, if we're taking overs, I'd rather do that on the Hurts thing. Daniels, kind of like the over half of an interception facing a defense that will force turnovers. That would be the only thing I'd look at if we're going overs on Daniels. Anytime touchdown plus 230. I think that price is a little bit off, even though, again, as you said, only has scored in 3 of 10 so far this year for Daniels. Granted, make it 3 of 9 because he really only played half of a quarter against Carolina this year.
Yeah. Jaden Daniels, that 30.5 attempts, 4 and 6 this season. So 6 unders, that 30.5 attempts, 19.5 completions, 5 and 5, 226.5 passing yards, 5 and 5, passing touchdowns, that 1.5. He is 3 and 7. So only 3 overs and no interception. He is 8 and 2. Jaden Daniels has been able to take care of the football. Only Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson have taken better care of the football this season and not turned the ball over for their offense. So Jaden Daniels is doing just fine being a serviceable quarterback for Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Anytime touchdown, I had mentioned 3 and 7 this season, none since week 4. And then that total yardage, 272.5, 7 and 3 to the over. So his rushing yardage is 43.5 tonight. It's kind of where he adds it on once we get to the point of towards the end of the game, the Commanders need to get first downs, and Jaden Daniels, instead of putting the ball in the air and something wrong can happen, just keeps it on his feet and gets the first down himself. And then looking at the Jalen Hurts side, 26.5 attempts, 4 and 5 this season. 5 straight unders during their 5-game win streak. So 5 straight unders, 26.5 attempts for Jalen Hurts. Over 17.5 completions is 5 and 4 this season. Only 1 over in the last 5. 2 and 2 for both the completions and attempts versus Dan Quinn defenses. 223.5 passing yards, 5 and 4 to the over this season, and then that passing touchdowns 4 and 5 to the over. So not exactly throwing it, more getting the touchdowns himself is the poach in Jalen Hurts. Then taking a look at his no interceptions, he is 5 and 4 to not throw an interception this season, and has not thrown an interception in 3 of the 4 games versus Dan Quinn and the Cowboys, who he was then the defensive coordinator of. But his averages 25.5 attempts, 18.8 completions, 221 passing yards, 253 total yards, that 1.5 passing touchdowns right at that number, and a half interception. So no 2 plays for Jalen Hurts. And then there are no history to look at for Jaden Daniels because this is the first time he's playing in this rivalry.
4-point favorites tonight for Philadelphia, 49.5. Again, a whole confluence of plays for us here tonight, Ryan, and some of them will make it into that same game parlay at the end of the show. Ryan, before we hit a break, what's going on in the chat right now?
Yeah, so we started the chat with a poll, which quarterback is more likely to score at any time touchdowns tonight, Jalen Hurts or Jaden Daniels. And it appears that the poll has been ended, and Jalen Hurts is your winner tonight. Our chat thinks Jalen Hurts is more likely to score a touchdown. Well, the books do too, but so does our chat. Then we have Jerry, we have Ben Florence, we have Alex White, we have Jim Dwinger. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that one right. And Vince, Las Vegas. Jim and Vince both think the Commanders can pull off the road upset tonight.
Oh, it would be a heck of a win for Washington if they happen to pull this off, and it would put them in first place. It'll put them in first place with a win tonight. Again, it's a 2-horse race in the NFC East. Not the one we expected going into the year. I didn't expect it. Some did with Dallas and Philadelphia. But Washington, Philadelphia is absolutely this 2-horse race down the stretch. Yep. Where, again, the NFC, boy, it is... There's going to be one team very easily be one team with 10 wins left out when this is all said and done. And that's mostly because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the easiest schedule I can ever remember for their last 7 games. So even though you look at it right now, it's like, oh, it's pretty clear right now. It's just a matter of who's going to win the NFC West between San Francisco and Arizona. Bucks may have something to say. That might be a good plus money make the playoff bet right now. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, our power rankings, also some games that stand out to Ryan and I this week, and Dwayne Colucci. There we go. Joins us in about 10 minutes from now. Get all of his plays. He's been pretty good recently. He's been pretty good on those picks. We'll hear from Colucci in about 10 minutes from now. Right here on Sports by the Book Football Frenzy.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day. The friendly ticket writers are happy to help, and it's conveniently located next to the famous Del Mar Deli, where you'll find supersized portions of delicious deli items like roast beef, pastrami, and Reuben sandwiches, or soups, salads, and pizza. Plus spectacular desserts fit for a king. And right next door is the race book. Over 150 seats, each with its own TV screen. There are 16 interactive player terminals, so you can bet right from your seat.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book Football Frenzy. Jeff Parles, Ryan McCormick, Dwayne Colucci joins us in about 7 minutes from now. All right, Ryan, it's power rankings time. And, I didn't do much changing this week. I just did some slight tinkering here and there. It's actually the exact same 10 that were in the 10 for me last week. Arizona's the almost famous one this week, but not there yet. You can throw it up there, Sean. The Chiefs stay put. They stay put. They're not moving until they lose, guys. And I'll tell you this. We'll get into that game later with Dwayne and maybe even before Dwayne. Harrison Butker going on IR is a big deal.
Yep.
Because it makes the Chiefs, who have been obscene in one-score games, they're 8-0 in one-score games this year. You eliminate arguably the best kicker in the NFL and now replace him with Spencer Strider, who kicked for the Jets last week, was the only bright spot for the Jets in their debacle last week, but is a kid who has only attempted 2 career NFL field goals and in college was sub 75% all year long. That's something to monitor the next month while Butker's out getting surgery on his left meniscus, so his plant foot. So we'll have to monitor that. That's not good timing for Kansas City, but they stay at 1. The Lions, it's kind of weird because it feels like everyone is saying that the Chiefs have been lucky. The Lions have been pretty fortunate themselves the last month. Yeah. Especially when you go box score diving. Last week was the biggest rabbit out of the hat, getting dominated by Houston at halftime. Goff throws 5 interceptions in 35 minutes of game time, and the Lions still win on the road in prime time against a team that's in first place. I think that has more to do with Houston. We'll get to them later, but Detroit stays at 2. Baltimore goes to 3. I nearly put Philadelphia out of Baltimore.
Okay.
Because Baltimore's defense is terrible.
Yes.
And as great as Lamar is and has been, he's on his way for his 3rd MVP and his 2nd consecutive, that defense is horrible. And I just can't see them going to Buffalo or going to Kansas City or, heck, going to Pittsburgh in a playoff game and winning because of that defense. That defense has to improve big time the rest of the year. Their offense is just so ridiculously in front of everyone right now that they stay 3. Philly's at 4, been the best team over the last 6 weeks. So they go up to 4. They were out of both of our rankings a little over a month ago. So quite the vault for them. Buffalo's at 5. pretty self-explanatory. They keep winning. They're not 100% healthy. They're only going to get healthier as the year goes along, and Allen's having a great year. This is where this gets tough from 6 through 11 because Minnesota is showing big-time cracks right now.
Yep.
And it's because of the quarterback. Because Sam Darnold, who is arguably the best quarterback in the NFL through the first 6 weeks, has started to look like the Sam Darnold we become accustomed to. Bad decision-making, turnovers, taking bad sacks. It's all coming, and it's all in a wave here for Darnold. And this may very well be that there's tape on him and Kevin O'Connell's offense. And if that's the case, Minnesota's not really a threat to do anything more than get to the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game on that defense's back. So they're at 6. Green Bay, 7. They stay put. Jordan Love's got to be 100% healthy before I move them up. So we'll keep them there. Niners at 8. Boy, fortunate to win last week against Tampa with no players yet again. Steelers at 9. Commanders at 10. I just flipped them from last week. Arizona's 11. And then after that, you can really throw them up in a hat from 12 through 20. And, well, I guess the Chargers are a little bit above everyone. Cardinals 11. Chargers 12. 13 through 20. You can throw it up in the hat and do whatever the heck you want with it at this point, Ryan.
I really wish the Buccaneers were healthy because they would be a top 3 team in the NFC. On my side, I had the Buccaneers in my top 10.
I know you did. I don't know if they're top 3. They're definitely playoff for sure, healthy, but top 3. I mean, Detroit. To me, Detroit and Philadelphia are so clearly above everyone at 1-2, and then I guess you can fight it out at 3 on Tampa Bay. Then,
yeah. I really do wish the Buccaneers were healthy. But anyway, getting into my top 10, I do still have the Detroit Lions at number 1, third straight week that they are here. I get that Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions, but when you force interception, punt, missed field goal in the second half to shut out this Houston Texans at home, and ended up coming back to win that game, you did enough to be able to stay at the number 1 spot. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, you can show me all the film that you want to that you schemed blocking from that spot of the field goal, but getting a blocked field goal to win a game is extremely lucky.
Doesn't happen.
Extremely lucky to remain undefeated are the Kansas City Chiefs, but they are the number 2 team in football and the best team in the AFC, so they remain at 2. I have the Baltimore Ravens at 3, and Jeff is 100% right. Their defense is going to be their demise, but that offense is so good, and Lamar Jackson is very much on his way to winning a consecutive MVP. And then Buffalo at number 4, Josh Allen is right there behind Lamar Jackson, and they're going to get Amari Cooper back. They're going to get healthier, so the Buffalo Bills are number 4. San Francisco 49ers at 5. Christian McCaffrey didn't look exactly like Christian McCaffrey did, or we've gotten accustomed to Christian McCaffrey looking this past week, playing against a Buccaneers team that's really fired up and trying to stay competitive with all their losses that they've had on their roster. I do have the Eagles at 6. I think they are the top 3-4 team in the NFC. The asterisk is right there. So Eagles, Packers at 6.
Okay, so Green Bay is 7.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then the Steelers and Commanders stayed right there with each other. Last week it was 9 and 10, but I had to move the Texans and Vikings down, and as well as the Rams completely out of the top 10. Thought the concerns on the offensive line would be less for the Rams than they were against the Dolphins, but anyway. So the Pittsburgh Steelers at 7, they did their business against the Commanders in Washington, so they get to stay above them. The Texans move behind Washington because you can't get shut out in the second half if you are going to stay a competitive team in this league against the best team in the league in the Detroit Lions. You had them in a position to where you beat them on your own turf and you gave it up. So Texans move down for me. And then the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold throws 3 interceptions last week against the Jaguars. That's now 3 straight weeks against the Rams, Colts, and Jaguars that the Vikings have lowered their opponents' points allowed per game. Rams, Colts, Jaguars. Those are not great teams. So if you're lowering their points allowed per game, you're not doing well on offense. So the Vikings fall from 5 to 10 in my power rankings. They're lucky to really stay in the top 10 because as Jeff said, if Sam Darnold is going to stay this Sam Darnold and throw several interceptions in games, they will be lucky to even win a playoff game.
Might be lucky to get there. Again, the NFC, and we're going to keep saying it with Tampa. Their schedule is such a joke.
Yes.
The rest of the way, and again, it's the NFL. It's hard to win out, which in order to get to 11 wins, they have to go 7-0. But if you're Minnesota, if you're Washington, if you're Green Bay even, you have to keep winning. You have to keep winning. If you don't keep winning, you're asking for trouble. When this is all said and done here in the NFC playoff race. All right, let's go to some games this weekend, and I'm not going to torture you, Ryan. I'm not going to make you talk about this game. I want to talk about the other big rivalry in the North, but on the AFC side. Let's do this. Let's go to Pittsburgh. Where this is, to me, one of the most fascinating line games of the season. Forget the week, this whole season, where Baltimore goes to Pittsburgh here and is a 3-point favorite. Total's 47 from 47 to 48, so up on the total, which, quite frankly, all Baltimore games against competent offenses moving forward should be totaled in the 50s. That's just my thought at this point. And Pittsburgh fits that billing, so I guess by virtue of that, I like the over. But Ryan, I'm floored that this is a full field goal on the road, and there's even some 3.5 in the market now. I like the Steelers, and Pittsburgh has played Baltimore very well. It's a one-team Jackson always seems to struggle against. Pittsburgh winning this game outright makes a heck of a lot of sense to me, and that also would put a little question mark on the AFC playoff picture, because then Pittsburgh is in the driver's seat to win the AFC North, which is still something even the betting markets don't expect that, and almost everyone still expects Baltimore to win that division, especially now with the sweep of the Bengals this year. Yeah,
well, I do remember in our chat we did have Laulea saying that Lamar Jackson was afraid of the Steelers.
Well, I don't know about that.
We know that Lamar Jackson is 1-3 straight up in games that he started against the Steelers. In that same time frame, Lamar Jackson could have started 10 games against the Steelers. He's played 4. Means he's missed 6 games against the Steelers. Inactive, COVID, inactive. So if we want to make this about the Steelers are dominating Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, they haven't played Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. They played him 4 times. Yes, they are 1-3 against him, but they've had to go against Tyler Huntley and other quarterbacks. So I'm spacing on names right now, but the rivalry that we think we've seen the last few years, we haven't actually truly gotten to see, because we haven't gotten to see Lamar Jackson lead this Ravens team into Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. I don't think that this game should be 3. I agree with you. I'm more on the side of taking the 3. But this one's going to be awesome. An AFC North rivalry with 2 teams that are competing to win the AFC, or Steelers trying to prove that they can win the AFC. The Ravens actually trying to win the AFC for the first time with Lamar Jackson. This is going to be a great matchup. Yeah, it's interesting because over the last few weeks, I've been trying to figure out what's Pittsburgh's true ceiling here. Is it win the AFC North, win a playoff game or 2 and get to the AFC title game? Right. Is it that they can win the AFC and by virtue of that win the Super Bowl? I haven't quite figured that out yet. And I think that's going to be the storyline with them the rest of the year is, what is the ceiling for this team? Are they just a solid playoff team? Or are they a team that can waltz into Arrowhead or waltz into Western New York and win an AFC title game? Yeah. Where those are still the 2 most logical places for that AFC title game, Kansas City and Buffalo. All right, we're going to take a 1 minute, Sean. We'll get everything set up. We'll get Dwayne Colucci on. We'll get his thoughts tonight. We'll get his thoughts across the weekend in both the NFL, and we are really in the home stretch in college football. 3 weeks to go in the regular season, and we'll get the thoughts from our friend Dwayne Colucci when we get back on Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy.
Welcome back in. It's Football Frenzy here on Sports by the Book. Jeff Parles, Ryan McCormick. We're happy to be with you. And now joining us up at the Rampart, runs the race and sportsbook up in Summerlin. Our good friend Dwayne Colucci joins us right now. Dwayne, it's good to see you on a Thursday.
Good to see you guys as well. Definitely, always on a Thursday. NFL action.
Yeah, so let's go to tonight's game. Dwayne, when the schedule came out, I don't think any of us thought this would be a battle for first place in the NFC East, but credit the Commanders. They've been as good of a surprise as any in the National Football League, and here tonight they go up I-95, either a nice bus ride or the Amtrak up to Philadelphia for the Commanders, and here you go. Open 3.5, got as low as 3, and now 4 on this one with the Eagles at home tonight against Washington.
Yeah, not only credit the Commanders, credit the Cowboys and the Giants for that fabulous play to put them right in a playoff position.
That's one way to
and
put
the
it.
Chicago Bears. Yeah, don't forget the Bears with that beautiful blown coverage. But yeah, definitely Jaden Daniels. Let's give credit where it's due. This kid is phenomenal, just playing lights out. And on the other side of the ball, the Eagles. I mean, 5 in a row, just a very difficult scenario right now after playing such a smash mouth football game against the Steelers. Now you have to travel to Philadelphia where the Giant is sleeping. So, definitely a tough game, and I could understand why it has now gotten 2-4 at the Rampart in South Point. But the ticket count slightly in favor of the Eagles, but the money is right there. It's pretty much, getting buyback now on Washington. So this is going to be a great matchup. The NFC least is up for grabs. I definitely know that if Philadelphia has a big lead, Sirianni will be looking to blow it. But Saquon has been phenomenal. Let me tell you, that was the acquisition that they needed to make, and it is definitely panned out. If you look at all these free agent movements and goings off and going around in the offseason, Saquon Barkley was a focal point, he and Derrick Henry. And Saquon has definitely delivered. Henry has delivered. You have some fabulous running backs, between these two guys. And it definitely has helped Philadelphia's chances. As you could see, A.J. Brown does get hurt quite often. He gets banged up. He leaves a lot of games. So to have that 3-prong attack when you have Hurts, Barkley, as well as Brown, it definitely enhances their, chances of winning this division and beating the upstart Washington Commanders.
Yeah, Saquon has proved that he is a top-tier back in this league, and adding that to the Eagles' offense has proven that that was the right move and a mistake by the Giants. But looking at the other side, the Commanders get Brian Robinson Jr. back tonight. Without him, the team is averaging 87 rush yards a game. With him, they're averaging 182 rush yards per game. So I have to think that the Commanders are going to try and use the run flow as their game script tonight. And we've seen the total go from 49 where it opened up to 49.5. That's really, the movement's been the other way, that they're not expecting a run game. What are you seeing, Dwayne?
Yeah, the same, definitely, Ryan. But, that's what it opens up the run game more for Jaden Daniels, because the stats of the rushing yards for the team, Jaden Daniels' stats become much more impressive when he is available. So, definitely they're going to try and play ball control. But, you have to watch this Philadelphia offense and defense. They play offense basically on both sides of the ball, and they're really excelling right now. So, you're seeing a 49.5 total, and that's definitely the public is teasing it both ways, because they feel an under on, a 55 is definitely havable, and also an over of 43. So, it's a unique situation. We opened it at 49. It's up actually a half a point with the running attack coming back for Washington. So that could work both ways. It either opens things up where Jaden Daniels is running for 80-yard rushes, or it could, be ball control. I kind of think this is going to be a tight game, more of a lower scoring game, just because the Commanders are coming off that big game against Pittsburgh. I think they're going to have some jet lag there, and I think it's going to be very tough to turn right around and play this Philadelphia Eagles team. Eagles are really riding high. I mean, they had that game in their back pocket against the Jaguars, and they stumbled a little bit down the stretch, and that's why Sirianni, his coaching techniques sometimes backfire, and it puts the other team in a position where they can make up a lot of ground. So this is an interesting interesting game. I'm not good with totals. I'll be the first to tell you, but I do like the Eagles' chances slightly in this game. I hate to say that as a Cowboy fan, but the Commanders have done nothing wrong this year. They've outplayed every scenario of their season thus far, and it will continue as they go. They might not be, if you look at their remaining schedule, guys, they might not be an underdog if Jaden Daniels stays healthy for the rest of the season, other than the rematch against Philadelphia. And that's only if Philadelphia blows them out, because their schedule is horrible down the stretch. They're going to be the favorite in all of those games, except maybe the rematch against Philadelphia. And that game's in Washington. So if this is a tight game, Washington might even be the favorite in that game.
Yeah, also, maybe Atlanta if the Falcons get their act together, but that's a gigantic if, to put it politely. But we mentioned it earlier. I mean, the Commanders are really well set, especially if they pull the upset tonight. Commanders are in great shape to potentially steal the NFC East.
The game means more for Philly, Jeff. Definitely.
You and I
if you
agree.
look at the schedule.
Yep. Yeah. You and I 100% agree on it. That's part of the reason I like Philly here tonight. Also with the weight class upping for Washington here. All right, going to other games this weekend in the NFL, and Ryan and I were just talking about it before he hopped on, but I want your thoughts on the Steelers and the Ravens. We're both surprised at this number, Dwayne, with the Steelers getting 3 at home. Against a Raven team that there's no denying they have the best offense in the NFL right now. But, boy, the Baltimore defense has really stunk it up this year and is just continually getting bailed out by the fact that Lamar Jackson's the best player in the league right now.
Yeah, he and Henry are a fabulous combination, and Lamar is carrying the team. I mean, just ask Jamar Chase. I mean, they could not stop one offensive weapon, and the guy is just like rampant. It was almost 300 yards receiving, and yes, their defense has been totally a stink fest, and continually you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry bailing them out. So, 3 points because they are the number one so-called perceived ranked team in the NFL, are the Ravens, but they have played some bad games this year. Keep in mind, they were the one team that really couldn't finish off the Cowboys and blow them out. Dallas started to get back in that game real late and had a chance to win, and they have played, some tough games. The coach for Cincinnati chose to, go for a 2-point conversion and basically hand them the game in the last time we saw this. So, I'm kind of perplexed. The Steelers are playing great. Tomlin made the great decision, to start Russell Wilson over Fields. That's definitely played out. They beat a top-notch team last week, but they might have a little jet lag as well. Let's keep this in mind. Pittsburgh playing now another top-notch team. The schedule and the wear and tear could definitely wear you down. This is the NFL level, guys. We're at midseason, and this is a focal game for the Ravens, just like it is for the Steelers. This is for supremacy in the division as Cincinnati has slipped up. We know Cleveland has no chance. So the Ravens are definitely going to come out to make a point. It's just, is their defense good enough? Najee Harris is a little banged up, so we'll keep an eye on that. And that definitely will put a lot more pressure on Russell Wilson if Najee has to sit this one out. I seen he was upgraded today, but he really isn't practicing that much. Very important. Harris has been a focal point this year of the Steelers offense. He's been a beast. He's put up some monster numbers, and they definitely need him healthy to control the ball against the Ravens. Keep that defense on the field as long as possible, and they will wear down like we saw against Cincinnati and give up points in bunches against Dallas. Against a lot of teams, they've given up points. The defense is the Achilles now for the Ravens. If they can improve the defense, they will slide into possibly playing, the Chiefs. But this Chiefs-Buffalo game is a huge game this weekend. It's a measuring stick game, as I like to call it. So, a lot of football to be played. The AFC is up for grabs. It's so exciting. Even though the Chiefs are running the table right now, they've got a lot of gifts from the referees. They got a lot of help through this process. Hopkins was definitely the major acquisition. It's opening things up for Kelsey now. But remember, they're very, very banged up. And Patrick Mahomes, it's just one injury from turning them into a mediocre team if Carson Wentz had to go under center. So, this is a focal game for the Ravens. They want to keep pace. I think the Ravens ought to play here. I think that the Steelers are finally going to show a little crumble in that amazing wall that they've put up this year.
Well, I did want to ask you about that Chiefs-Bills game, being that it is the two teams that are at the top in the AFC, proving that they are the top of the AFC and the undefeated Chiefs and the Bills that have competed against them in the AFC Championship the last couple of years. But anyway, it stayed where it's opened, 2.5 Buffalo at home. What are you seeing in that one, Dwayne?
Ryan, read the line. I mean, now Buffalo's the favorite and the Chiefs are the underdog. So we definitely like Buffalo, as bookmakers. It's going to be tough to get to that key number of 3. You never want to give Patrick Mahomes 3, especially against the team that he owns. But Buffalo has been so well coached this year. They're getting even returns out of the kicking game. They were looking to get rid of the kicker earlier in the season. And now he looks like he's, the second coming of Tucker, revitalized the Raven kicker. So, Buffalo has definitely played well. And if they could ever start to get Amari Cooper acclimated into this offense and he becomes the big play weapon, they could be very, very difficult. Josh Allen is playing at an MVP level, but this is the Chiefs, and they have not beaten them. They have not cleared this hurdle. When they've beaten the Chiefs, it hasn't mattered. When they don't beat the Chiefs, it means going to the Super Bowl or to the championship game. So, it's so hard to bet against the Chiefs, but you're looking at this line, and on a line read, Buffalo definitely has a chance in this game. This is a bookmaker telling you about a line read. I think Buffalo definitely can compete in this game. And looking at the action, I mean, so far it's been just fabulous. Two-way action, more on the Chiefs naturally with the parlays and teasers. But if that game ever gets to 3, we'll get plied, with Chief money even more, and it will not get to 3. I'll tell you that right now. That's too key of a number for Buffalo to lay. Even the great Buffalo Bills, how well they've played this year, they're not going to get to 3. I think the game could even come down to 2, 1.5. So, watch the market on this game. I like Buffalo in this matchup, but it doesn't mean that I like Buffalo to beat the Chiefs if it was a playoff game. But in this situation, Buffalo has a great chance.
Well, we said, I think I said it this morning, Ryan.
You said it a couple times.
Where we know what happens in this matchup. They play in the regular season, Buffalo wins. The only time that when it's Mahomes versus Allen that Kansas City beat them in the regular season was 2020 in a game that was on a Monday in the slop in Western New York. And, of course, the Chiefs have never lost to Buffalo in the playoffs in this era. They're 3-0 in those games. All right, Dwayne, before we let you go, I want to throw one college game at you because it is, amazingly enough, it may not even matter, but it is an elimination game for Georgia where the Bulldogs get clocked in Oxford. Those are the AP numbers up there. But whatever, as Vinny knows, has said plenty. Polls don't make prices. Polls don't make prices. Thank you. I'm just stumbling all over myself there. But here you go. Georgia's 10 at home against Tennessee, who, with a win, might actually play in the SEC title game when this is all said and done. Nico Amaliava right now is questionable. Well, is still in concussion protocol. So, Dwayne, if the bettor's been a little more cautious on this game than you would expect because Amaliava is still an unknown with that concussion right now?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The sharps are going to lay off and all the public are taking Tennessee. So we're actually a little high on Tennessee, with the -10 from Georgia. And you have actually a higher ranked team that is getting 10 points. Tennessee right now is 6. Look at the graphic. And Georgia is number 11. Georgia really played some bad games this year, guys. Very shocking to me. I thought they were a team that once they beat Texas, that was going to be the turning point, but it just didn't pan out that way. SEC teams have come back down to earth. You saw LSU just get destroyed. That smash mouth playing in LSU at night on a Saturday night, and they just got destroyed, never even showed up. So the landscape of the SEC has totally changed. Thus far, we're actually seeing a little more Tennessee money, and the ticket count is actually a little in Tennessee's favor. Nothing that's major or significant because of the injury and how it's going to be established, just like you said, Jeff. But this is going to be a focal game. Georgia would like to really make a statement, but I don't know if they possibly can. I mean, that defense, that offense has had trouble getting going, especially early in games. And it's just, they had to play catch up against Alabama in that game. They fell behind. Last week was just unbelievable. I think Tennessee with the points does have a chance regardless of injury statuses and, where the game is taking place. But 10 points is a lot, guys. I definitely would entertain looking at Tennessee in this matchup.
With you 100%. This is a lot of points. And you mentioned that Carson Beck has really struggled against good defenses. And I think Tennessee's defense almost has become underrated because people have just don't think of their defense at all. So it wouldn't shock me If Magliulo doesn't play, it's going to be an uphill battle. But if he does play, 10's a lot to be getting with the Vols in that one. I'm not saying they're going to win, but play this game within a touchdown, you're there with ease. Dwayne Colucci, everyone. Of course, you see him up at the Rampart Race and Sportsbook Director. NYBookie Dwayne on the tweets, as always. DC, always a pleasure. We'll catch you again next week.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Ryan. Always a pleasure. Love joining you guys. And let's make some money this weekend. Definitely. There's some great opportunities.
Yes, sir. As always, Dwayne Colucci, everyone. All right, Ryan, new feature to the show. We're going to do a little same game parlay action here. Ryan, go right ahead, my friend. What do we got for us tonight?
So Jeff's favorite play is the Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown tonight. That is the pick and price of -115 at DraftKings. If you partner that with Terry McLaurin to have at least 4 catches, you are going to get at least a +140 price. If you add in Zach Ertz to get 2 catches and Brian Robinson to get at least 40 yards, you are going to get at least $3. So Jalen Hurts touchdown, Terry McLaurin at least 4 catches, Zach Ertz at least 2 catches, and Brian Robinson at least 40 yards. You're going to get over $3 on a same-game parlay.
That's 40 rushing yards, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there you go. All right, that's what we're going with. We're going for 4 legs, so we'll see how that all
if you want just the 2 legs, the Jalen Hurts and the Terry McLaurin 4 catches, plus I got around +140 when I placed it.
Okay.
So.
All right. We'll see how it all plays out. Here tonight, Commanders and Eagles, good game in Philadelphia. 4-point favorites right now for Philly. Again, as much as I like that Hurts anytime, I think the Eagles side is my favorite play today. As I think about it more. But that Hurts one, if it's only -110, which there's still enough available, that's still pretty good. All right. Shout out to everyone in the chat, as always. Thank you for hanging out with us. Jerry, Vince, Sean, and Drew Dog, wherever he may be.
Got Mini Dar in there too.
Oh, Mini Dar.
He did not mention that you don't like the Broncos.
That's good. We're improving then. I do like the Broncos this weekend, so that should probably scare everybody. So that's something at least we'll talk about on tomorrow's show at 2:00. Myself, Vinny Magliulo, Chris Andrews, Jimmy Vaccaro will be here for 2 hours on Football Frenzy on a Friday, getting you ready for the whole weekend ahead. Also tomorrow on this channel, Kenny White's here at 9 a.m., getting you ready for the weekend ahead as well. And then, of course, Frank Nicotero on Punchlines at noon. I'll be there tomorrow. Chris Andrews will be there tomorrow. Lou Finicaro will be there tomorrow as well. So good show lined up on Punchlines tomorrow at noon. Ryan, good luck.
You too.
Let's get some winners.
Yes,
Let's get some winners here tonight. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again next time. Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy.